Hi guys, we're back for another video. This one's going to be on properties of equality. Remember that equality has the word equal in it. Equal. Right, so equal. Right, just like an equation has an equal in it, equality has an equal in it. So these are properties of equality. So they're properties that are true in math. So the addition property of equality says that if you have a problem like this, x minus 7 equals 9, the addition property of equality means that you add, because it's addition, on both sides of an equal mark. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So when you do this step here is the addition property of equality. When you add on both sides of the equal mark, x equals 16. So the next property is the subtraction property of equality. So you might be able to figure out what this one does. If x plus 5 equals 14, the subtraction property of equality is where you subtract on both sides of an equal mark, right? So this step right here is the subtraction property of equality, when you subtract on both sides of the equal mark. Now the division property of equality, if you have something like 5 times x equals 30, division property of equality is when you divide from both sides of the equal mark. So this division step is the division property of equality. Now x equals 6, right? All equality properties, you need to do something on both sides of an equal mark. The last one, I never did solve this one, so let me go back and solve that. The last one is the multiplication property of equality. So if you have x divided by 4 equals 3, when you multiply both sides by 4, that step is the multiplication property of equality. So this would be x, and this would be 12. X equals 12. The only other property that I want to talk about, two other ones, is the distributive property. We've talked about this, we went over to distributing. It's when you have something on the outside of a parentheses, something like this. You have to distribute that 2 to everything on the inside of the parentheses. So 2 times 3x is 6x, and 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, right? This step here would be distributive property. And now the last one, is when you have like terms, right? These are like terms. So 2x plus 3x, that's 5x. This is, we just call this combining. Combining, I misspelled combining. Combining like terms. So that's 6 properties that we're going to talk about. And this is probably the only properties we'll talk about this year, definitely this first semester. You have your 4 equality properties, your addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality, division property of equality, and multiplication property of equality. Then we also have our distributive and our combining like terms. We might do some more properties later. But for right now, it's only these 6 because these 6 help us solving equations. For example, this equation. You should know by now how to solve this equation. We've done multi-step equations and two-step equations. So the first thing we do, and this is, I'm going over this because this is what I want you to do on the next worksheet that you get. You're going to show me all of these steps and you're going to tell me what property it is. This way it'll be in the format that I want and in the way I want, and it'll show me that you understand what you're doing. So our first step, and you should know it, is we need to move this 4 over. So we're going to subtract 4. So when you subtract from both sides of an equal mark, that's called the subtraction property of equality. So that gives us 2x equals 10. And now the next thing we're going to do is divide both sides by 2. When you divide from both sides, that's called the division property of equality. So x is going to equal 5. So this is still a two-step, and instead of just showing me the answers, you're also going to talk about what these properties are. When you subtract from both sides, it's the subtraction property. When you divide from both sides, it's the division property, and we come up with our answer. I'm also going to ask that you check your answer starting now. So x equals 5. So remember to check the answer. You substitute 5 in for x. So 2 times 5 plus 4 equals 14. And then you do the math. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 4 equals 14. 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 equals 14, right? I'm checking 14. And I get the right answer. So this is the next step I want you to do, the checking step. So you're going to have a problem. You're going to solve it and tell me what properties they are. And then you're going to take your answer and you're going to substitute it in. The questions are going to get harder. Here's another easy one that we'll walk through real quick. You should know that the first step in this one is to subtract 2. So this is the subtraction property of equality. So that gives us x over 4 equals 4. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. That property is the multiplication property of equality. And then our final answer would be x equals 16. So we did the first step. We solved it. We identified the properties. We got our answer. And now we're going to put that answer back in. We're going to put x back, the 16 back in for x. So it's going to be 16 divided by 4 plus 2 equals 6, right? That's our original problem. Go back to the problem, substitute. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 equals 6. So we checked it and we got the right answer. All right, let's do another one. Another two-step. So on this type of problem, our first step is to multiply the bottom number of a fraction. So our first step, we're going to multiply both sides times 3. And when you multiply on both sides of an equal sign, that's called the multiplication property of equality. So that gives us, these cancel, x minus 7 equals 2. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And when you add to both sides, that's called the addition property of equality. And that gives me x equals 9 as my answer. So I'm going to substitute this 9 in for x. And it would be this. Actually, I totally did something wrong. Hopefully you caught it. And I'm not going to edit it out. I'm multiplying by 3. 2 times 3 is 6. I didn't even do that. I made a mistake. This is wrong. This should be 6. And 6 plus 7 is 15. See, I checked my answer and I realized I wasn't getting the right answer. So I looked to see what I did wrong. And that's what I did wrong. So this shouldn't, my answer is not 9. My answer is 15. And 15 minus 7 is 6. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. And that's what I should get. This is why I want you to check your answer. That was bad. Hopefully, when I put this on Edpuzzle, you saw it. We'll see. All right, so let's do another one since I did so terribly in that one. So our first step here is we need to do this. And what is that property? Where we take what's on the outside of a parentheses and move it to the inside. That property is the distributive property. Now we have to move this minus 24 over by adding it. And what property is that? When you add on both sides of a parentheses, addition property. So we have 8x over here and 32 over here. Now we're going to divide by 8. And we get x equals 4. What property is the division property? What property is it when you divide? Division property of equality. So I need to see all these properties, is what I'm saying. And then once I found the answer, and I found the answer, so I'm going to go here, I'm going to put in the problem, except instead of x, I'm going to put in 4. I'm going to do the inside. 2 times 4 is 8. Right, I'm not talking, but you see what I'm doing. 2 times 4 is 8. I did the inside of parentheses first. That's what you do in order of operations. Then 8 minus 6 is 2. Again, parentheses first in order of operations. Could have done it different, but I'm following order of operations. And then 4 times 2 is 8. And 8 equals 8. And it's true, I could have multiplied this 4 first, but this way is easier. All right, I don't know how many more I'm going to do because I think you understand. I think it's pretty simple. So this one, you have 4n minus 2n. So what do we call it? 4n minus 2n, that property, when you combine like terms, all we just say is combine like terms, right? We didn't do anything. We didn't do any math. We just combine like terms. So then we're going to divide by 2, and n equals 2. And when we divide by 2, that's the division property of equality. And now we're going to take this 2 and put it back in to the original problem, right? N equals 2, so we're going to put 2 back into here. And we get 8 minus 4 equals 4. 8 minus 4 is 4 equals 4. Check. So we checked it. Again, these are the things I want you to do. I want you to do step by step, tell me the property, and then check it. So you can tell that the first step here is you have some like terms. So our first step is we're going to do 5v plus 2v and get 7v. That is, the property is called combining like terms. And now we're going to move this 2 over to the other side by subtraction. And that property is called subtraction property of equality. So I have negative 14 equals 7v. And now I'm going to move the 7 over. And that's the division property of equality. And I get negative 2 equals v. And now I'm going to take negative 2 and I'm going to put it back up here into the problem. I'm going to change color. So I'm just rewriting this with negative 2 as v. I'm using parentheses. Right, there's my original problem, except v is now negative 2. So multiply first. So negative 12 equals 2 minus 10 minus 4. Because 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So now negative 12 equals negative 8 minus 4. Negative 12 equals negative 12. And I checked it. It's a lot of steps. And I'm probably going to give you, I won't give you too many problems, but I want to see all these steps. All right. So, same thing. Our first thing we're going to do is bring these together, the x's. X minus 5x is negative 4x. And again, we call that combining like terms. Now we're going to move this 3 over here. So that's going to be a subtract 3. And when we subtract from both sides, that's the subtraction property of equality. So that's 0 here. 3 minus 3 is 0. Negative 4x. I'm going to divide from both sides by negative 4, which is the division property of equality. 0 equals x. That's my answer. So I'm going to substitute 0 in for x. I'm going to change colors again. 3 equals 0 plus 3 minus 5 times 0. So I'm going to do this multiplication first, but at the same time, I'm not going to write the 0. I don't need to write a 0. So I have 3. This is 0, so it goes away, equals 3. And negative 5 times 0 is 0. So 3 equals 3. I get my right answer. All right, I'm going to stop this video now, but I might have another one. It's just hard for me to see what the time is. But you see what I want you to do. Solve it, show me the properties, and then substitute it back in.